Computer. Lights.
Good morning, everyone. Happy Tuesday. So, I'm big on practice because we're never going to get anywhere if we don't practice. So, today is a practice day. We're going to practice painting because that's an important thing to do. So, we're going to do painting. First thing we're going to do is switch over to here. We're going to start ourselves out with a new canvas, brand new. I always do 11 by 17 because that's just my native format now. So we'll do an 11 by 17. The next thing we kind of want to do is think of like what we're going to paint. Now, one of the things I have is, like every good artist, I keep a morgue is what they call them. And that's a place where all of your, you keep pictures that you like, oh, this is a great picture. Oh, that's a great picture, And so I've got a painting morgue. But one of the things I really like to do, though, is look at like pieces done by people we already know and love and everything like that. And one of my favorite artists is Wlop, W-L-O-P. He actually has a real name, but I can't remember it now because I've only heard it once, and I heard it, and if I hear names, that's the end of it. I never will remember. I'm going to turn my volume back up there on the microphone. But he's got a number of pieces that I really dig. He's done some really good work. And so kind of looking around, you know what? I think what we can also try to do is search for a picture of, like somebody we know. Or just, we could just kind of look around for pictures that are pretty cool. And I think that that's not a bad idea. I'm going to look for Dreamcatcher idols. Because if I'm going to have to do a painting, might as well paint one of my favorite groups. I love Dreamcatcher. They're one of my favorite groups. It's a K-pop group, so they're Korean. And Jiu is always adorable with her little like round glasses. We're going to give that a shot. Let's try that. Let's try random Jiu picture. I'm sure, and this is actually one of those things that's so sad. I'm sure Jiu thinks that her glasses make her look weird or whatever. It's not true. Okay, so we're going to attempt to paint this picture. This is what we're going to do. This is our battle plan. Or at least paint something like it. I have a bad feeling about this drop. Okay, so here's so I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to bring this on in to Clip Studio. So let's go ahead and do that. It's going to take forever. Open with Clip Studio Paint. Okay. Now that we've got this picture in, I'm going to take it and pull it out like this so that we can have it side by side. Because if we do these things like this as side-by-side boards, then it won't require me to switch back and forth. Now, there are a number of things that we can do to like match all of this stuff. One of the things that if I don't have time, one of the things that I would do is take the picture here and just go put it into this picture and then just tap in the dimensions so that I don't have to fight with the dimensions, because we're going to end up fighting with the dimensions. But since this is practice and we want to practice, we're going to do that. So we want to practice getting you. It's okay to do the trace functions if you really want to, but it doesn't help you train your eyes. It doesn't help you train your eyes to see where the distance between things and and stuff like that. So we're going to do this totally freehand. That's what we're going to do. So we're going to go in here and we're going to just do this freehand, which is remarkably terrifying, I'm just saying. And we're just rough sketching in, just kind of looking here and just kind of getting the same kind of idea right through here, right? She's got what we call sort of a heart-shaped face. So it's rounded and it's like a heart. It's rounded and it indicates more of where her cheeks are than anything else. So we're just kind of looking at, that's the kind of thing. She actually kind of looks like she has her mouth set. Like she's not ecstatic about what's going on here. I don't know what happened, but okay. Hope she's okay, Gio. Stay with me here. I can see, her body language here is not exciting either. She doesn't look like she's terribly happy. All right, so now look at the stress in her hands here. Find more than anything a certain amount of interest in, and we may have to move her hands at some point in time. I find a lot of interest in people's body language. It's like what you can see in these pictures that indicates a certain amount of body language. I can already see that I've made this hand too big. So we're going to bring it down and bring it over. There we go. And this hand's probably also too big, but I'm not 100% sure. So I'm going to go back in here. I'm using the skin brush, which is one of the brushes that I inherited from Wallop. Okay. Now, next thing we're going to do is we're just going to define And you know what we should do? We should do this on a different layer. That way, if we discover that we did this wrong, we'll do her hair on a different layer too. And we're going to try to find the lightest color and define with that. Because we can always go back and darken. But it's really hard to start out. There we go. Now I've probably made her, putting in her hair has now made it look more like, I feel like her hair is now, I made her face too tall. That's right, we'll come back around for that. We're just putting in just the rough flats, the basic design. Right. Hey, Brent, welcome to practice show here. Practice show. We're going to practice today, as all artists should do. So I picked Jiu from Dreamcatcher. We're going to practice painting her. We haven't gotten anywhere really on this. We're working on it. And already I can see, just by looking at this, that my spacing to the hands is now wrong. All right, so we'll move that down. There. How are you doing, my friend? Really? Yeah, we're doing practice, although I was going to trace, but I think I'm just going to practice without tracing today. And I was actually kind of saying this before. I was saying, a lot of times I'll just take this picture right here and just copy it over to this picture, and then make the top layer slightly transparent, just enough to tap in the eyes and the nose and the mouth, and just give myself some landmarks to work off of. There's another technique that's very similar to that, where they put lines across. You've probably seen it, and then you take, but the problem is that doesn't train your eye to see objects and perceive them correctly. So today, I've decided we're not tracing. We can't trace. That's the rule for today's practice. We can't trace. So we're just doing this without tracing. So we're going to try this without tracing. Give that a shot. That's what we're after here. All right. We're just trying to kind of get the feel of what we're doing, get the feel of where this picture is, the basics, things like that. So when we deal with like her eyes, we're going to go back in here and we're just going to bring that down, right? We're going to come over here. We're going to look to see where about her eyes are. And we look over here for landmarks, right? So we've got her ear, and that moves up to her eyes, then down to her ear. So we've got the ear here. So we know we're going to move up to her eyes and then over, right? So we know that the eyes are going to be in roughly this area, give or take, right? And then we look also for kind of direct landmarks going this way, right? This eye is obviously further over than this eye. But interestingly, it looks like this eye is almost in direct line with the neck, which is right here. So the inside of this eye is going to be sort of here-ish, right? Now, the way faces work is everything can be done by eye distance, right? So if we're here-ish, right, and we're going to bring her eye in like so, then we now kind of have a marker to how wide one eye is. And so this to here is the same as the distance between the two eyes. It's a little different. It's a little wider, not quite the same distance. But then we have this to here, right? And so we'll mark off this eye here, right? Even looking, though, at this, I think I've done this eye too close over here. So I'm just going to move it out. Wonderful thing about digital work, right? To about there. Right, and we can go back in and we can just patch up through here like so. Right, so now that we've done that, we can kind of see where we are, relatively speaking. Always, this is sort of it will always be sort of a exercise in understanding anatomy and understanding how things work. By the way, I do not expect miracles out of this particular picture, and nobody should. I'm practicing. We should always practice, because we're going to fail. And if you can fail faster, then we're better off. So accept your failures, move forward, keep going, keep plugging. We're just going to keep going and keep plugging. Now that I've got kind of a defined zone in here, I'm going to move in on this picture. Move in closer on her eyes, because we're going to get closer over here on this picture too. So you start out with landmarks because once you get this close, it's really hard to see the rest of the picture, right? Oops, let's screw that up really bad. It's really hard to see the rest of the picture. So and you look at the way that she's done her makeup. She's got mascara going through here, and then she's got sort of an eyeshadow that's a very red, sort of a bright pink, very red eyeshadow going for her. Very lovely effect. Looks great. Now, her eye is really only to here, but we've got a lot of extra, like maybe it's the eyeshadow mascara combination going out here. It's what gives everybody the effect, gives especially women the effect that they have larger eyes. The reason that women always look like they have larger eyes than men has everything to do with the fact that actually men have a brow ridge, and this brow ridge is tougher and stronger on our skulls than women, but it also overhangs over our eyes, makes our eyes look smaller. So it's not that women have bigger eyes, it's that men have smaller eyes, or at least by appearance. Women will then accentuate that with makeup. So we'll work harder out here to make the eyelashes larger, right? And kind of bring them out. And when we do, this makes it look like her eye is bigger, but it really isn't. It doesn't hurt her at all that her eyes are brown, although her pupils are really dilated in here, which is kind of interesting considering the fact that, yes, but I'm right. It's like, you're a dentist. The last thing you really want is an anatomy lesson. I apologize, my friend. I apologize greatly. Didn't even think about that. I'm sure that that's not, in fact, one of the more entertaining things to do, but there are also interesting societal things that go with what we do and how we do it. You're okay, Brent. Just do what you do, bro. I'm good. Okay. Now looking at an overview. I've got more of an arc there than I do here. So back over here, we're going to put in the scalea, which is the white of the eyes. What you'll notice over here, even though it looks white, it really isn't. Okay. I am artificially right. I can totally see that. We're going to bring her eye back to here. And then we're going to come up here, and I'm noticing that I have artificially made her eye look. I'm not going to put, you know what? I shouldn't be putting in eyelashes yet. Let's go on ahead and make sure we've sculpted the look of her eye first, because that's what we're going to, people key in on that. They look at the eyes are the window to the soul. We look at our eyes. We look to see what the eyes say. And her eyes are multitude. One, I've brought them too far this way. She's looking at the camera, not looking off to the right, which is where she needs to be. It's looking over here. You know, you never think about the artistry that goes into dentistry. And I kind of feel bad that I've never thought about that. When you talk about just learning to sculpt a tooth, you guys are sculptors. I mean, that's a respectable job as far as an artist goes. Sculpting is hard. I can't do sculpting. I mean, so that's seriously cool work. And I don't know, I feel like we don't give you guys enough props for that. But I mean, I think about running my tongue around my teeth back here. I'm like, I've had dental work on almost every molar because just like any good American, I've drank way too many soda pops when I was a kid. And now I don't drink soda anymore. There's no sugar in here, just coffee. Because I learned my lesson. That was unpleasant and brutal. I don't want any more root canals. But, I mean, I never really think about how much effort it goes into making your tooth fit so that it doesn't feel weird. So props to you, my friend. Props to you a lot because that's not easy. Okay, this is called an epicantral fold. And it's what Asians have, and it folds over the eyelid at the top part. And it's what makes them have what we consider what you readily call the Asian eye. And it's the classic fold of the eye that makes Asians look Asian. The fold kind of is down here near the back part and then moves up and over towards the top. She's got a very well-defined fold on this. It's very cool. Very easy to draw. I hope to goodness she's not actually watching this video ever because I think I'd be creeped out by somebody drawing me anyway. This was like getting all familiar with my anatomy. You know, kind of does seem remarkably creepy. So that's that. Now, her makeup doesn't go above that fold on this line. So we're going to bring all this back. It does go beyond the fold out here in this area, but for the most part, it really just doesn't. I always wonder about that. I mean, it's kind of like you never think about doctors, dentists, they all have to work on bodies somewhere along the line. Dentists, probably you guys all work on like living people. But I always think about, like, I've got a couple of buddies who are doctors, like medical doctors. And they have to go through the cadaver stage of their doctor training where they're just cutting into people who've died. And I'd empathize too much with that. I'd be sitting there going, I wonder why this person died. It'd be horrible. So, okay, so when I look at her eyes, we've got a lot of tilting up going on right through here, right? It's tilting up. And this is important because she's got an angle going with this eye that's very much up and then down, forward in the eye, like so. we want to be able to capture as much of her expression as possible on this. And you look at this part of her eye and you can kind of see what's going on here. We're looking at sort of the shape of her eye. Her expression, if we pull back out again, we want to look at the whole person and get an idea of what her expression is and try to match that as much as possible, right? Now, with only one eye in, it's very shocking, but that's all right. We're getting there. But you look at her body language. Her shoulders are tensed. Her hands are clawed. They're gripped tightly. Her chin is set. Her mouth is slightly frowned, but her eyes are looking kind of serene. And the reason behind that probably is she just finished a dance set of some sort. Her brain is still concentrating. She's still processing through the steps of what she had to do. She's still moving through, in her brain systemically through all the pieces that she had to do. I still have, I could see a little bit of movement in her hair. She's probably just at the end of a movement phase. So really, she looks tensed, but that's probably more because she's moving her body. She's in motion. And even though this picture looks like it's absolutely static, she's probably at the end of a move. She's a dancer. She does dancing. So that seems perfectly reasonable. So trying to kind of read what her body is doing at this point in time, we've got kind of a forward arc in that shoulder. So we're going to have to bring those shoulders forward. And we've got tension in her hands. She probably clasped them forward at the end of her dance move. So she's probably just stopped like this. And she's moving in. It's hard to make an assessment as to what people are doing in a vacuum because you don't know really. So it's difficult to make that call. But that's my guess. I'd like that a whole lot better than she's annoyed and aggravated that everybody's taking pictures of her. Because that means that whatever was going down here is not cool. And I'm not sure I like that too much. So, okay, moving back up here. The next thing I kind of want to do is give myself a couple of more well, I don't know if I would be dancing with my glasses on. I feel like I would throw my glasses across the room. So this may actually be that she's annoyed by having people take pictures of her, which, sorry about that, Gio. Let's go on ahead and do a couple of things to make sure that we've got kind of the pieces in that we're looking for. There's a light source right here, and it shows up kind of down here in the bottom of this eye, like that. And we got a little bit of like a dot, just not a whole lot, but a little bit like that, right? But this light source is very, very solid right there. And we'll see pieces of it over here. And I'm not sure if she's, I don't know whether that's, whether she's operating on that particular part. I don't know what she's working on at this point in time, but I'm going to bring her eye up like this because it rounds through to here. I'm going to bring it across like so and bring it up like this. I'm going to bring this back in like so to right there. That's really where this is. All right. And just kind of bring this up and flatten it a little bit more. For me, anatomy is fascinating. It's an amazingly fascinating thing. Human beings are complicated critters. Lots of stuff going on. It always fascinates me. Right, so I'm seeing variation in this color here, so I'm going to go on ahead and just do some of the variation here. We're seeing see how we see a little bit of variation through there, and kind of just a little bit of, this just gives it a little bit of realism through here, right? I'm going to do this. From a distance, you can't tell that her eyes have any color at all, which is another thing that Asians have, that because they've got one of the darkest sets of eyes, them and Africans have absolutely black irises coming up. And so you end up with the most amazingly dark looking eyes, which makes their eyes look like their eyes are always dilated. And it makes it difficult to kind of figure out what's going on and read the eye. We read eyes. That's part of the message that we give to one another, is looking at whether our pupils dilate. It's sort of code, if you will. Dilated pupils are a sign of interest. They're a sign they're a sign of arousal. They're a sign of interest. They're a sign of all kinds of stuff. So it's one of the reasons why poor Asians always get kind of misread as being more interested in something than they really are. So these poor folks are like going along their lives and, oh, you're very interested in my... No, I'm not very interested in your work at all. Actually, I have no idea what in the world you're talking. I always feel bad for that. But it has a lot to do with the fact that we read dilated pupils as something that is, as an interest point. And go in here. We're just going to... There we go. Right? Muscles and blood vessels, all of it's so fascinating. I'd be a doctor, except that I, couldn't handle it. But that's okay. I do enjoy the fact that when I'm with doctors, there's a certain amount of, oh, you know what you're talking about kind of going on. Not totally. I'm not a doctor. I can't even play one on TV. But, I can tell you that my bicep hurts. I can tell you that I'm suffering from a pain in my lumbar region of my back. I can tell you those things, and that, as opposed to, it hurts right here, which is really useful. All righty. So over here, we got kind of a tan she's got going on over underneath there. She's got a different kind of makeup on the underside of her eye, and it looks kind of more tannish going, and she's got it going outward like this, right? So we're just pulling to the back out like this a little bit more. I'm looking at just how this works. She's got a very dark pink right here, right? So we're just looking at the values when we deal with how this works, right? We've got this dark pink right there. Very, very dramatic. And this is this particular fold right in the front of the tear duct is another very uniquely Asian trait. Asians, they believe, evolved certain traits to protect them from sea spray, and you can kind of see it when non-Asians spend their life at sea, like the old salty dog, you know. They'll also start to form this epicantral fold to protect their eye. It's extra protection from salt spray. All of this shielding around the eye is just extra shields, protection from being hit in the face with salt, which, you know, a lot of these were islander people for a very, very, very long time, long enough to have caused an evolutionary change. The thing that's amazing is, and the thing that I absolutely adore about human beings is, these guys were apart for long enough that their face literally changes from every, you know, the Caucasian face evolved away from the African American, or the African face, not African American, African face. We got a longer, narrower nose because we need to heat the air that we're breathing. When we breathe air, it needs to heat up in the nasal passages. And we lost melanin in our skin, and the pigment went away, things like that. But what's amazing is the brain didn't change. We're still the same people. I mean, that's the part that I think is so cool. We're still the same people. Didn't, you know, this is all superficial changes. Unless you watch Gundam. Now, if you watch Gundam, we're about to evolve into new types. Just saying, it could happen anytime. Anytime. So, I love Gundam's new type concepts. So what I'm doing here is I'm going through, and you can see how she's got sort of a glitter going on the makeup under her eye. That's what I'm doing here, is I'm just putting in that glitter. And the other thing is, you know, also back on sort of that superficial thing. If you were to work on my tooth and then work on her tooth, it would still be the same structure underneath there. This is such an amazing thing that we are. Two things. One, we're so sensitive to the smallest changes in a person's. Wow, that looks kind of cool actually from far away. Look at that. Look at that. Isn't that cool? Yeah, look, I'm getting there. I'm getting there. I'm getting there. She needs her eyelashes, is what she needs. But these minor changes, something that we see and we perceive, because we have to identify our parents, we have to identify our family members. You know, we can't just be blind to other human beings. So we're already pre-coded as social animals. We have to be pre-coded to see and perceive and understand differences in faces. And that makes total sense, but it's interesting to me that these are such minor changes in the grand scheme of things, you know? Like, you could still work on her teeth and they wouldn't be any different than my teeth. She was born in a completely different country, in a different world, and a different culture. Korean culture is cool. I think all cultures are cool, actually. I don't know why I said that. I mean, Really? Yes, I could see that. I could totally see that. Yeah, and position. Yeah, position. Well, and like I said, we've got nose differences. If you look at like the African nose is wider, and actually to some degree, so is the Asian nose. Both of those are wider, and that's for warmer environments. This long, thin nose is for colder environments. It allows for heating up of more air before it goes into the sinuses and freezes everything up here and locks your sinuses down, you know? So everything's designed for a different sort of function. But that, in a way, though, isn't that also kind of fascinating? That we as creatures will adapt. We'll adapt our bodies, we'll adapt our our structure to like all of the. I'm fascinated by this stuff. This stuff is great. It's always fascinating to me. There's like two different, yeah, jaws and cheekbones. So the higher cheekbones also indicate this same sea spray protection that they developed to protect against the sea spray. And all of that's a theory. I mean, obviously, we don't know for sure what happened. We're all theorizing, doing the best that we can with what we've got. So, but yeah, the jaw, these upper bones, which they don't. It's funny because we always call these high cheekbones up here. They're not. They're prominent cheekbones. They're forward, and it's actually because the nose is pushed back, and it has less to do with the cheekbones coming forward. It has more to do with that nose being pushed back. The flatter nose, in theory, also keeps sea spray from getting salt past this part of the nasal cavity. So you're not inhaling salt into your sinuses. Although putting salt in your sinuses might not be like a bad thing necessarily, I guess. I'm going to go ahead and do this. She put makeup in this area up here that's more like this color. So let's give a little bit of darkness through here. Right, just kind of looking at that. Got a little bit of darkness kind of going through here. Coming up on that fold. We're going to spend the entire time on this eye. But it's practice time. That's the whole point, right? Anatomy practice time so that we can make Ghost Hand just go, not more anatomy. Sorry, Ghost Hand. I mean, legit. I am apologetic. I do know that, the last thing you really want in your life is more anatomy classes. I feel for you. All right. We've got a small amount of like a pinkish shine through here, which we're going to put through here to kind of indicate this highlight. She's got a light kind of bouncing off that section of her eye back there. So we're going to go in here. We're just going to put that in right through here. Interestingly, the color that's picked there is actually brighter, or darker, darker than the existing color here. All right. Now, when I look at this, I've got sort of a darker gray back here for her scalea. It's scalea. So I'm going to try to bring that around a little to kind of darken this down. Because you look back here and you look over here and you want sort of that same shape, right? The white of her eye. And this is the shadow of her eyelashes. So kind of matching this shadow sort of here. And now what we have is an eye that looks relatively similar to that eye. And it looks like I've got her eye open a little bit more than she does. So I'm going to probably come back in here. And what I'm just going to do is just bring the upper lid down. And this is a fraction of an inch, or I guess a fraction of a millimeter. And the reason we're doing it is because she's more, right? She's got a little bit more of a set to her face. It's given her eye a little bit of serenity, but I feel like really we're dealing with more of that, right? I'm going to go in here and just kind of push down a little on this. Anyway, the point really is that it's one of those things. I've had young artists ask me, do I need to know anatomy? Do I need to know anatomy? You don't need to know anatomy, really. But anatomy is fascinating. And B, it's interesting, or you do kind of need to know where you are on the lines, right? Like dealing here with this epicantral fold, it's useful to know, damn it, that line's coming in way too high. So it needs to come in. If you look here, it's passing in and then getting really close to her eyelash there. So like this is what we want, right? And then everything on the other side of that epicantral fold is going to be this color. I'm just going to erase this out right there. Just get it out of there. Everything on this side of the fold is out. It's very, very straight up, right? Very shocking. Now, the thing is, her skin right here is a different color. So let's go ahead and talk a little bit about that. And let's bring up our brush. We're going to come over here. We're just going to, because there's a spot here where we're kind of describing this. And it's light here, dark here, and dark here. And the line goes this way. When you look at, I guess to me, I think it's fascinating when you think about how our eyes work, and you look at Asians, and everybody always kind of says that they have almond-shaped eyes, and they're always depicted as angled inward. But if you look at her eye, she's not angled inward. This eye is absolutely level. What's happening is this piece of skin right here is being pulled down. And then we get illusions, these illusions of angle up here. She's getting this illusion of a brightness right here. And that illusion makes it look like she's got an angle coming out of her eyes at this direction. And it's giving that illusion. It's operating on sort of an illusion. And this actually, if you look, this line goes this way and then sharply down onto her. So we're going to go like across up here like this into her upper brow ridge, right through here. We're going to come down on the nose. That's where we're going to end up on this with this. Down her nose. Down her nose. Poor nose. It's got a little bit of it here. All right. We're just going to blend this in. Right. And all I'm doing here is just using my blend tool. This is a technique that I have picked up from Rulop. Right. Now, the thing that we're really not getting that's not helping our picture over here match this picture is the eyebrow. Right. The eyebrow right up here is going to be sort of a light color on the outside. But let's get our landmarks, right? It's directly up from the end of her eye and over slightly. So it's going to start like here, right? Right here. And it's not at that angle. It's more at this angle. Now, uniquely to Korean and Korean mainlanders is a more straight brow. The Japanese have more of an arched brow, and the Chinese sort of have more of an upward angled brow. Now, this is, of course, not specific, this cultural. They cut their brows in a different way. Everybody does different things. It's sort of the nature of the beast. Women especially when you deal with women and fashion and things like that, you end up with the most bizarre things. Like, I don't even know where they come up with these rules and regulations to make them do the things that they do. But hers is going to be straight and right into here, straight and into right there. And that's where we're going to stop. Above this is going to be, and by the way, fascinated with women's fashion doesn't necessarily mean I understand it all the time. I'm like, why did you do that? Some women's fashion, as is classically known from the world of high heels, comes from men, and I get that. And men imposing fashion on women. But some of it also is like they did it to themselves and over cultural zones, and some of it is just wild. Okay, guys, it's the mid break. And by the way, it's not to say that men don't do stupid stuff too. Everybody does stupid things, and sometimes I just don't get it. Everybody stand up, stretch. It's been 1 hour. Let's stretch. Pop our back. All right. Let's go for a quick walk around the room. Move here. No. Oh, good. We got water still in here. Good. Turn on my little swamp cooler. I have a very micro swamp cooler over here. A portable swamp cooler. All right. Okay. And we're back. You can change the lights back. You can change the... You're going to wait until I'm turned away to turn the lights back on to their normals. Yeah, well, whatever. Okay. Let's get back to work. Now, we've got to be very careful with where the eyebrow goes, because the eyebrow can dictate more about her expression than anything else, right? So her expression that I see right here is one of kind of straight determination. She's let her eyebrows relax. They're holding right where they should be, and she's looking off into the distance. So kind of want to look at just the way that this is going. Trying to grab as dark a eyebrow color over here as I can. You'll notice that I'm also kind of trying really hard to specifically grab the colors from over here. So we've got some of the eyebrow sits like this, right? And then it just sort of is on its own out here. And we just get these sort of tendrils that go into the eyebrow itself. I'm not 100% sure if she's putting makeup into her eyebrows to darken them. Probably she isn't. This is probably just an aspect of how things are kind of going with the photography. And so the fact that back here kind of looks like it's just sort of I'm just going to run the eyebrows. The eyebrows will always go from one side in until we get close to the center, at which time they move up. Asian hair is very coarse and very straight, so all aspects of body hair will always be very straight and coarse. So it's one of those, there's water everywhere. I'm going to take some of the brown from here, and I'm just going to put it in to lay it in a little bit on here to highlight some of this, to give just a little bit of depth in here. All right. Then we're going to come back in. The other thing we need to do is kind of now, we've got some trail off over here, which is happening with the back of her eyebrow up there. So it trails off like that. Now, this highlight that was right here, it's this kind of highlight. And I don't know if it's as bright as the highlight here. So I'm going to be very light when I come up here on this, but I have just a little bit of highlight kind of going above here. And it gets into her eyebrow right there. So we're going to be putting it in. And I'm actually just going to pretend like I've got white eyebrow hairs for just a short distance. And not a long distance, but just a short distance. And that gives that little bit of shine, just a little bit of shine. Now it's really hard again with this particular thing. She has these wonderful, wonderful glasses, but it's really hard to determine whether whether we've got our proportions correct, because the glasses are in the way, right? So we're going to add another layer, and we're going to go ahead and describe these glasses. The glasses themselves look like they're pretty much almost black. And look at that color, right? And when you look at where they are, they're coming out from here, getting really close to the top of her eye right there, moving to over here. Then coming down, right? Then right over here, they actually cross the outside of the eye right there. They move out to here, and then back around, and they go way down like so, and back up and around. This ended up being like a study of an eye. That's it, right? We didn't even study anything else. We just studied our eye. Although this can kind of show you why a lot of times us artists will spend hours upon hours on one of these drawings. Now that I've drawn it, I'm going to be more sure about it, right? Come through here, much more defined. Okay. And then we're going to cut into this a little bit more. Now, her glasses lend a little bit to this shape that we're dealing with. And when we deal with the fact that she has sort of I don't want to say a flat look on her face, but almost a flat look on her face. So she looks somewhat irritated, somewhat annoyed. A lot of that can also be defined by these glasses, which have a flatter look to them. Just trimming it down so that it looks. I'm thinking her glasses are more round than I've got them here. So let's go ahead and kind of clean that up. Right, I feel like they're rounder. So we're going to come out the bottom down here in a more round look. Round, round, ground. I wonder if it'll be friends with me. All right, better. There we go. Just kind of pulling this through. And we'll just clean this up. All right. These are metal glasses. They're metal. So the thing about metal, I meant metallicity. Okay, I'm not able to say that word. Today, we're having a problem. Is that we get a direct shine, just like we're getting down here with the under part of the glitter of her eyes. So I'm able to take some of this white and I'm able to put it like this. Right? I'm just taking a guide as to what over here is shining and what's not. Looks like there's another dot right there and a sort of a pseudo dot right here. Not really totally a dot, so I'm going to go through and do this. Right? And that gives it the effect that we've got going on right here where it looks like it's shining. It's The Shining. Here's Johnny. Now, I'm liking this outer line more than this inner line, so we're going to kill this inner line here. The truth is that we can use these glasses as points of which to kind of trigger other parts of the face. But you want to be very, very, very careful. One of the biggest mistakes that a lot of artists make is, and by a lot of artists, I mean people like me, because I've kind of done the mistake here, and that is get super concentrated on one part of the body and then use that to trigger the next part of the body. Like, we don't know in a whole sort of way whether her nose is right here, but these glasses are sitting on her nose. So we need to make sure when we do this that we're not moving her face over to fit this pair of glasses. We don't want, we draw the glasses, then we put her nose here, and then we put everything, and before we know, we have sort of this shift going on her face. She's no longer balanced, and it starts to look a little disturbing, right? So we probably ought to go back out real quick and just tag some more important points, right? Because at this point, we could truly get lost in the rest of this picture and never realize how far over we're shifting things and moving things. Like, I can already see from this distance that she looks like she has a larger eye there than here relative to the rest of the face. We may have a problem already. And it would be brutal, super brutal, if we had to now dump all that work into that eye. We spent an hour on it, right? And all because, why are we in erase mode? It would be super brutal. So let's get her face in, define this face. She has a lovely face. What a lovely face. All right, so we'll go on ahead and pull this part in. And we're just defining aspects here, right? We know we're going to have to put her lips here-ish, right? And so we're just defining the color. That way we can tell where we are on the points. It's kind of like the Joker there. Oh my gosh. I'll have to come back and fix that. Right? But the one thing I really want to tag in on here is her nostrils. Right? The nostrils are going to be right about halfway between her eyes and her lips. Right? So right about here-ish. Right? And that's what we want to really know, is how far off are we with the glasses. And that's why I wanted to do that. Now that I've tagged in where her nostrils are, we can see that the glasses need to be bigger, right? So that's okay. The good news is we can do that. We can make these glasses get a little bit bigger like so. We can move them over just a little like so. They still fit the profile of what we're looking for, and they fit better. And now we're getting closer to what we're looking at over here. And that's why we want to tag in all of these things before we get all detailed into eyes and stuff like that. Because we could make a mistake. And we did. The other thing is, let's look, when we look at this picture right here, let's take a look at where her glasses are going in and over her ear, right? They're going to go up at an angle like here, and they're going to go over her ear. And so we want to make sure we can define that. So to me, I'm looking at this and thinking, well, part of the problem is that no matter which way you look at it, this guy needs to be wider, strangely. So we're going to hit the Shift key. And just try to kind of, we actually can use a transform on this. And they've got a lot of variable options here that we can do. But a free transform is extremely useful at this point in time, because we can then do sort of this, right? And even though we have defined a good portion of this, we can alter and change the way that this works to get it to fit exactly where we want it to. She's wearing her glasses forward, so they're going to be sitting right above the nostril, right here. So, going to adjust. And then we're going to pull this side back. And now we're able to kind of get more of a description of what's going on in those glasses, right? Here we go. Do love those glasses, though. Now, there's a number of things that I'm noticing. I still feel like every aspect of her eyes and everything like that is too small. So now that we've defined sort of a large element on her face, we can take her eyes and do sort of the same thing. Increase it in size. Right? And just looking over here, looking over here, looking over here. You know what I mean? We can tap this up right there and tap this over just a little like that. And now we're getting very close to over here and looking at what we're looking at. Look at that. Almost looks like we planned it. Okay. Let's move back in. Let's get a little closer. We've got a highlight on the bottom down here. So we're going to take that highlight color we've used before, and we're just going to go in here and apparently select stuff. Let's not do that. Change your tool. We're going to do this. There we go. Lovely. 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 Yeah, that went south. Okay. Trim, trim. Trim, trimity, trim, trimity. Okay. I'm easily entertained. Of course, you guys know that. You guys have been hanging out with me long enough now. You know I'm easily entertained. All right. Now, if you look right here, the only part of these glasses that seem to affect any aspect of her face at all is right here, right in the edge of the nostril. So we're going to go ahead and define out the nostril. This is why I hope that these people never watch these videos. Like the subjects of these. I mean, you're like, so we're defining her nose, and it's like, what a wonderful nose. It's a great nose. It's also the reason why I try very hard not to draw my friends. Because I'm sure that they would get in here and they'd be like, okay, so is my nose really that big? Really? It's not big. I don't even know what to say. You're like, I don't know what to do. So I'm just going to take aspects of the color that's over here, and we're just going to do this. All right, we're going to kind of come around like this. We're going to come around pretty much like this. We're just going to define this zone right through here. Right? It's not a big deal. We'll go in through here, and what I'll do is I'll get a thinner line, and we'll kind of go in like that. There. And that sort of defines this zone a little bit. We want to kind of blend this in like that. And then we're going to talk a little bit about like the underside here. First of all, the thing we're going to want is right up here is this color. And then right around here is this shadow. Right? And it's moving underneath. I'm on the wrong layer. You have to stop. But why? You're on the wrong layer. Oh. Okay, we have made a tactical error. Sometimes this has to happen. That's kind of a bummer. We will undo all of this work because we were on the wrong layer. You have to stop. But why? You're on the wrong layer. Waiting for Brent to come in and say, layer check. Okay. Let's go back in one more time. Okay, so up and over for her nostril. She would even be even more embarrassed because I had to spend twice as much time on her nose. She'd be like, no, what is it with you people? You're so mean. Okay, we'll cut this back around, up and over, like so. There we go. And just kind of moving around the outside here like that. I'm going to go on ahead and define this object because it's a big, dark part of this face. So I really want to define it very well and make sure that it's correct and correctly defined. Then I can put all the objects around it. That's what I did before. Before I found out I was on the wrong layer. Right? So now one of the things we're going to also do is I'm going to also kind of come up here real quick and I'm going to hit this color right here, just through here, like so. And then this is Lop's way of blending, and I love it. What he does is he taps the color in between. So there's the merge color right there. And then you can just bring that around, right? So we can bring that underneath here, like so, and then tap here, and we get kind of a blend color, right? Now her face is going to be remarkably bright right here. in this, right along this zone. It's very, very bright. And we'll test to make sure that we're on the right layer by doing that. So we talk about her high cheekbones, or in the case of the reality, her forward cheekbones. That's what we're looking at. She has a very small amount of blush on, but it's very, very understated. One of the things I really like about Dreamcatcher as a group, they're not into gaudy or very like brutalistic sort of makeup. Their makeup's very calm and middle, and not dramatic, super dramatic here. So all I'm doing here is finding the middle ground and blending, and the middle ground and blending and blending and blending. Right. And now you see I have matched along here. We've got a little bit kind of going out here that I want to make sure I keep going this way, just to make sure that I'm following this line right through here. But for the most part, we're going to do that. And when we do, it looks like that. There. So we're getting closer. We still have some aspects that aren't quite working as well as I'd like them to. I feel like I've got still a little bit more up on the upper part of the eye that should be rolling out more. So we're going to come back in again and just real quickly touch in on that. Okay. Right. What are you talking about? Well, her eye is a little bit flatter through this zone than I did here. Right. So I'm going to do this, which flattens out that zone a little bit more. This section through here. And then we're going to darken this area a little bit more. When they put her mascara on, they went on ahead and it's bleeding out into her eyeliner. Her eyeliner, I'm sorry, is bleeding out into the eyeshadow. A little bit of everything when you're an artist. One of my favorite things to do is to work on makeup with my friends. It's one of those things, it's like, I don't wear makeup, and that's a cultural thing. I actually think I would look silly with makeup, but, that's just me. However, some of my friends just look awesome with makeup, and so I actually really dig doing makeup for them. There we go. And you see how I flattened out her eye, giving her more of a sort of straight look, like she's not impressed with you. She is not impressed with you, people. I'm just saying. We're also going to move her eyebrow down just a little bit. So this is what happens when you don't use when I don't allow myself to trace. And it's totally fine. There's nothing at all wrong with it. But I'm not tracing, so it's really hard to get all of this straightened out the way it's supposed to be. It's difficult, not impossible. There we go. I'm going to bring this white. You see how the white is right coming up across there? Let's get back in close on her face to the point where we see pores. When we look at this, we've got this whitish, pinkish area. It's a highlight of where the light is striking directly onto her skin. So we're going to pull that out, and it goes over here. It gets a long ways across her skin there. It'll come across like so. And she looks pinker. Like I feel like I'm missing some pink in her face here. I'm just not giving her enough of the pink I'm really after here. Good morning, Donald. Ghost Hand's also here. You just can't see him because he's on Twitch. So you can wish him a good morning too. I have been abusing him all day because I'm doing anatomy work, and he's like, nah, not anatomy work. Because he's a doctor, so, well, a dentist, a doctor, that's a doctor. So he has had far more than his fair share of anatomy. But we're working on realism and realism painting. And so it's been fun, and I hope he just is very patient with me. So I'm also going to try to describe this device. So the first thing I'm going to do is try to pin it to the correct part of her glasses, right? So the rules for today's drawing are that I cannot trace. And it's just because I want to make sure I've got the skill. This isn't knocking anything about a trace. Sometimes tracing is very, very useful. But I want to make sure that I have the ability to continue to do this without tracing. So, our rules for today, the rules, if I should want to follow them, which I do, or we cannot trace. So, getting light here, right? We see light there. We see light here. We see light right there, and right there, and right through here. Okay. Then we get a sub-reflection. I can see it kind of right here, and that's coming off of her skin. So that's going to be right here, and it's a bounce off the skin right here is what it's doing. And we get the same effect right up here on the top because it's coming off of the top right there. So we want to make sure we reflect that, right? These are bounces off of her actual skin itself. And there's a little bit on the back end there. And then I'm actually going to use this in the front just to kind of keep that solid. The pad itself is this like gray, and it's right back here, and it's right under here, and it's very, very, very understated. So we're going to make sure that we're kind of blended in, because it's actually moving through to right about here, but we're not going to be able to see it. Skip trace, just saying. Tell your friends. The pad goes all the way down to the bottom, but we're not going to be able to see it. So we're going to give it its shadow. Let it have its shadow there. And since my painting is at a slightly higher resolution than the drawing, I'm going to give just the barest outline of it, because it does exist, and we want it to exist. There we go. When we pull back out, you can see that it's there. It's all kind of structured. We've got the structure kind of going for it. It's all kind of there. I feel like I didn't quite go looking back and forth between these two. This is further out than this is, and we can fix that with a quick, pull on the actual artwork itself. So if we do this, and we say transform, we say free transform, and pull that out just a little, and then shrink it down just a hair, right? There we go. Right. Control D is the shortcut for deselect. I still feel like this goes up more than this does, but you know what? I'm going to call it a little bit of artist interpretation, right? So now moving over here, the one thing we really want to do, let's go back to, we do want to define this shadow, because we know that it's there, and we know that it's going to be coming off of here. You can see it right through here. Then it travels down our nose, and then right off the edge, just like that. All right, and we'll blend it so it's not so abrupt. If you actually know how we get when we have we get these shadows that we call them solar eclipses. There we go. Sorry, having an eclipse issue of the brain. A solar eclipse. When you look at a solar eclipse, there are two parts of the shadow of the moon that strikes the Earth, right? The moon passes in front of the sun, and we get a penumbra, which is this outside part of the shadow. And then we get the umbra, which is the center part. All shadows act the same way when under a very direct light, like the light we're getting from the stage light that's lighting her face. We've got a couple, I only see really one massive stage light. Then I see it bounce. If I look in her eyes, I can see that I've got a bright light to her right over here. And then I can see a bounce that they're doing. It's like a bounce card, or they're deflecting a small amount of that light. The light spreads out like this, and they'll put a card that bounces it back onto her face from the other direction, but it's at a diminished value. When I use photography to take pictures of people, I'll take the two lights. She does have a cheekbone. We haven't gotten there yet. Haven't gotten over there yet. And that was actually what we were talking about earlier, was people keep kind of saying that Asians have high cheekbones. They really don't. What really it is that their nose is pressed back, which causes this ridge and this bone right here, which is just under the orbit of the eye. And I almost had its name for a second there, and then I lost it. There's a bone right here. And what it is as that nose is pushed back, that bone becomes prominent up forward. So they don't necessarily have high cheekbones. They have a prominent bone right here, which this ridge becomes forward. So that is sort of where we're headed on this. We'll get there. We're going to work on her nose real quick over here. Just get that nose in. I had the nose earlier, and then I messed it all up. Right? But if I look through here, her nose moves up into this area just a little bit and then comes around the edge just like that. Okay, the coloration on this is gray, but it's really pink. So we're going to have to blend some of this pink in over here. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to take some of this pink right here and just bring it back through. Because that's a direct shadow right through here. We're going to bring some of this pink up and over. And up and through. And then we get the underside of her nose right here. Underside of the tip of her nose right through this part. We get a small amount of highlight. The highlight is, by the way, what sells all of this. Highlight sells everything. So putting this highlight underneath her nose here, even though she doesn't have a runny nose, she wasn't like snotty and dripping or anything like that. Poor kid. It's just the nature of the beast. Aw. I have water all over my monitor. Okay. We're going to go through here and just bring this around. And we're going to bring that through just like this. And we're going to then take just a little bit of this right here. We're going to dip that way down and give this definition right through here. Right? Yeah, I know. I kind of feel for like Jiu here because we're using her and kind of getting really intimate with her face, and it's kind of creepy and in its own way. But I mean, you know, it's the nature of drawing, and it's the nature of art, and we kind of have to do this. I think awful lot about, you know, how do people feel about that? Probably not ecstatic. But I mean, there's no other way to practice, so I would love to. Okay, so as I was saying before, the Umbria and the Penumbria, we're going to give the same thing with this. We're going to give a little bit less on either side as the glasses move further away from her nose. I'll come back up and around here. We're just going to blend this in. She's got a very pale face, so we want to reflect as much of that as possible. We've got a little bit of this reddish color right through here. Going this way. And actually, there is light reflected inside, just a little bit inside there, but we'll get to that in a second. We're just kind of designing kind of following around the inside part of her nostril here, just trying to kind of follow it, right? I always feel somewhat intrusive, like I have intruded upon her personal space. Doing this, it's a little uncomfortable, but I don't know how else to practice. You know, realism is really hard and requires a lot of analysis of how things work. You can see now, just looking at part of this here, we've gotten pretty close to matching the design here. I think her nostril's too big. That was actually right. Women can have mustaches. that was actually the thing we were talking about, Donald, is her body language in this picture is closed. Her shoulders are forward. Her hands are very tense. Her mouth is set, and she has a relaxed, like intentionally relaxed eyes. She's trying to relax. So I just picked the first picture of Jiu that I pulled up off of Google. And when I did, I realized she doesn't look happy. She doesn't look happy at all. Anyway, so we'll get back in here. We're getting much closer. But let's look at her nostrils, and comparatively, I think I've got too much nostril going on over here for her. So we'll come back around here, and we will like that. And then around like so. There. And that matches a little bit more. Right? She is intentionally locking her eyes on something. I don't know. I mean, we don't know anything about the story of this, so I've been kind of operating on all kinds of speculation about different things that are going on. My coffee is dripping. Oh my gosh. There's so much condensation. So I'm going to have to put it here. Because every time I pick it up, it drip, 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 drip. We've been speculating about what's been and by we, it's me. I've been speculating about what's been going on in this picture to make her have this expression. But these eyes are not half-lidded, but they're set. And she's relaxing her eyebrow intentionally. So it's like my thought was, originally I thought, well, she's probably finishing a dance set, right? Because you come out of a dance set and you're moving and she's in motion. Except then I realized I wouldn't be dancing with glasses on if I were her. And so this probably isn't a dance set. There's something going on in this picture. She's seen somebody in the audience, or she's annoyed with the photographer, or something's going on, but her body language reads really interestingly and somewhat disturbing. Jiu, if you're watching this, we feel for you. Whatever was going on during this picture, I'm sorry. Or maybe she just had a moment. We all have moments. Sometimes people are just, I don't know what I'm doing, She could have been annoyed by the pose. I can't get my body to do what I want it to do. Anything could happen. I'm going to just bring this up and over just a hair because I really want it to be above before I start the bridge here. So I'm just moving it a hair over, right? Move this a hair under. There we go. That's a little bit. There. I'm just doing some adjustment, minor adjustment. Trying to kind of match the lines that are going on over here, right? There we go. Yeah, she could be. Okay, now continuing on with her body, we only have about 9 minutes left. I can't believe we only have 9 minutes left. I'm going to go on ahead and define this nose line, this nose ridge right here. I'm going to come down like this. This helps me define where is all of this going, right? Because all of this right here tells me more about where her face is, right? And up here, a lot more of this going on up here. I'm going to kind of bring that back out and around. Realism isn't for the faint of heart, guys. I hope that this small amount of video work that I've done today gives you a little bit more appreciation for Michelangelo. It's a pain in the butt, and I have modern tools. It's okay, my friend. You're here for the last part of it. Don't worry about it. It's all good. So, you do you. You do what you need to do. That's important. It's important to take care of yourself. So, this highlight moves to sort of not a spherical, but a very round-ish point to her nose. Obviously, the nose is rounded, it's not pointed, so we want it to end out in a normal way out there. We're going to need to take this pink under here and just define sort of this round here, right? We've got this roundness of the nose. And come in here and just kind of do this. Right, we're going to come around. And we're just pulling this around. Like so. All right, we're going to just define some of this area under here. I'm going to define this area right through here. I am still, by the way, cheating by being able to select aspects in color from her skin over here. That's totally cheating. It is not the way that Michelangelo had to do it. He couldn't just click people's beat. Click. I'm just gonna. All I need is just this sample of skin right here. Beak. Thank you. I mean, really, we knew. It's like a thing. Yeah. I'm sure that, I mean, truth is, if you've got people who you can have model for you, that's always awesome. My particular model is working today, so I can't really draft her too much. But we also have photographs. They didn't have photographs. So there's that. Okay. Well, guys, we got to about here. This isn't the end of this drawing, by the way. And I haven't even really used the smudge tool, the blend tool. The blend tool will give me a lot more smoothness through here, like this. See how I can smooth this out and blend this in, like so. And that gives it much more of the effect of what you're seeing over here. You can blend it and smooth it around. And if I put the blend tool to use in here and just touch stuff up, it makes it work a whole lot better as far as looking like sort of a realistic part of this painting area. There we go. Kind of catch all these zones in here like so. There we go. Right? And that makes it look a whole lot more, smoothed out and cleaned up. Now the thing is that I'm noticing I'm missing like this area. And this actually makes a big impact on the way her eye looks right through here. So let's go on ahead and just put that back in like so. And there's gold. I don't know if you guys can see this, but she's got a gold eyeshadow going on right here. So let's go on ahead and put that in too. Now, it's reading as gold, but I'm not getting a lot of its color over here as being gold. Interesting. I also feel like my eye is too high on this side. When we get closer and stuff like that, we're getting to the point now where we are able to really kind of do minor corrections on it now. Right. There. And then we can just take literally the blend tool and just blend this in. There. It still looks like her eye is tilted more in. I clearly think her eye needs to be tilted more. And I'm suffering from the bias that we all believe that Asian eyes are tilted, and they're really not. Like I said, you can see her eye along the plane, the sagittal plane, where we're just kind of looking at straight across. Her eye is actually fine from the point to point. It's level. Whereas here, I've decided to point to angle, and it doesn't need to be angled. So we're going to go on ahead and move in. It misrepresents her eye. So we're going to come out like this, kind of just bring that out. And we're going to come down here just a little bit more like so. And we'll repair some of this. And then I'm going to bring this up and around like this more. And I'm going to bring this down, so that along the sagittal plane, we can see that her eye is there we go. We'll bring this up a little bit more. I have a converging tangent. You know how much I hate converging tangents, guys. You guys have been with me long enough. But I want this to go over this line. I don't want it to line up on that line. I will take artistic license. She just moved an inch to the left, that's all. In my version, she's just an inch over. That's it. That's all. There we go. Now we've cleaned up a little bit more of what's going on in this eye. And we are now out of time, guys. It's all right. I'll be back tomorrow. Tomorrow is Watercolor Wednesday. We'll be working more on that painting that I did yesterday. Or last week, I'm sorry, not yesterday. Last week, we were working on a painting of the Discovery Enterprise and a Daedalus class ship, which I have, for some inexplicable reason, been enamored with. I feel like I still want to put more of a point right here. Been enamored with that Daedalus class for a long, long time. And so, give her just this little bit right here. I'm trying really hard to pull that expression of hers, right? She's got just enough of a lift right through here to really pull that expression. See how I'm matching the expression now? Want that expression really badly. So, actually, I'm pretty pleased. I feel like I've still got her eyes still just a little tilted, but we're getting great. This is coming along nicely. As an experiment, this is excellent. I'm thoroughly excited. As an experiment in drawing, we're doing beautiful. So I'm not worried at all. Don't worry about it. As I had said before, the reality is you want to fail. As human beings, we don't like to fail. But the truth is you need to fail. If we don't fail, we don't learn. So I want to fail. I want to have an error. I want to be able to go, oh, that's what I did wrong. And we all want to do that. We all should be striving to fail. And I don't know why we don't. Because we get better with every failure. So, with that note, I'm going to leave you guys until tomorrow when we will be working on starships. Because I love starships, and you know I love starships so much. And so it'll be spaceship time tomorrow. Spaceship time. We'll do the spaceship time dance. In the meantime, I hope you guys have a wonderful day. I hope it does not, in fact, it's already freaking 31 degrees out there. It's 31. 31. And the world's going on. The world's going to be on fire. All right. Okay, guys. Have a wonderful day. Stay cool if you're up here. Ghost Hand, stay warm, because if it's getting hot up here, it's getting cold down there. So you stay warm, and we'll stay cool. And I will see you all tomorrow. And in the meantime, keep your eyes on the stars. Bye-bye. Computer, good night.